I'm a new reader to fantasy, and I just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. While I'm really enjoying all of this fantasy, romantasy, I've been starting to think about what I might want to read next. If you also want a palate cleanser before your next fantasy read, I have some classical literature recommendations for you that have some of the same themes and character dynamics as ACOTAR. First up, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is an interesting one to recommend to people, and I have some hesitations. One of the aspects of ACOTAR that I really liked was the emotional texture of the world that Sarah J. Maas created. When you're reading ACOTAR, there's like a feeling tone to it. There are bats in the chimney, and they just started freaking out. It's similar to how when you walk into a room and the people in the room have, I don't know, whatever mood or energy that they're giving off, it makes the room feel a particular way. It has a vibe, I guess. Like ACOTAR, Wuthering Heights has a vibe. It has this pervasive, immersive feel to the world that the story takes place in, but the experience is quite different. Wuthering Heights feels dark, stormy, restless, a little spooky. It takes place in the Yorkshire Moors, which I guess is this highland that's hilly and doesn't have any trees, and it just gets battered by storms and wind. The atmosphere is savage, vast, desolate, and empty, and you, as the reader, never really leave the moors. Now, I would not classify Wuthering Heights as a love story, but there is a romance and there is a lot of longing and yearning and heartbreak. One similarity is that the main male character is morally gray and dangerous. He's violent, manipulative, possessive, vengeful. Now that I think about it, he's more morally black than gray, if that's a term. In ACOTAR, the morally gray characters like Rhys are defensible, or they have a redemption arc. You are not going to get any justifications or redemption in Wuthering Heights, fair warning. It's much more unsettling. But I point you in this direction for 3 specific reasons. One is that you're going to get a brooding, dark, dangerous love interest like Rhys. The second reason is the intensity and longing and devotion between the 2 main characters. And the third reason is the thickness of the atmosphere of the story. If a book can have a vibe, this book has a vibe. But I'll be honest with you, most people I've talked to about this book strongly dislike this book. It is certainly not for everyone, so proceed with caution. The second recommendation is a much easier book to recommend, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. If what draws you to ACOTAR is the sweeping romance and the heroine's story, then this one's a better bet. You have an enemies to lovers romance that is very much a slow burn from contempt to devotion. The title of this book was initially First Impressions, and a really simplistic description of one of the themes in the book is that your first impressions of people are often wrong. So that's a clear mapping to Feyre and Tamlin, but also Feyre and Rhys. There is also an interesting parallel where the main character, Elizabeth Bennet, is initially charmed by the wrong man and repelled by the right one. In this book, Jane Austen is also having the conversation about the role a woman plays or should play in a romantic relationship, particularly in marriage. In Pride and Prejudice, I see a comparison between protection and partnership. And I think that's one of the main differences in the relationship between Feyre and Tamlin and Feyre and Rhys. Protection, partnership. And then you also have the family dynamic between the Bennet sisters. Now, I wouldn't say this is a direct parallel to the Archeron sisters, but some of the sisters have their own romantic storylines and their own life and self-actualization playing out. And the different relationships that the sisters find themselves in end up being examples or theses on the different types of marriages and the different roles that women play within them. When I first read this book, I have to admit I found it a little bit tedious. There is a whole lot of nothing that happens for hundreds of pages. Jane Austen lives in the details of the everyday. I actually think this has the effect of deep immersion into the story for the reader, but it's the sort of immersion that happens slowly and then all at once. It's like a house being built around you, brick by brick, until you're suddenly enclosed in a room. While it's slow to read, the effect is that you have a deep investment in the characters and their stories. But again, the plot is slow. If you love ACOTAR for the adventure and suspense and fantasy, you're not going to get it here. Let me know in the comments if you have some book recommendations that have similar qualities to ACOTAR, but would be a good break from the romantasy genre. Okay, thanks for watching. See you next time.